Hi, I'm Dave Wierzal, and you're watching PHTV4 Spotlight. Today's Spotlight is on education, kind of a continuing series where we get to talk to educators from the area. Today we are very fortunate to have Principal Mike Drury from Chicago Christian High School with us. And we're going to take a look at some of the challenges facing education, what we've moved through, and maybe what it looks like going forward, some exciting new things on the horizon. Principal Drury, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Dave, for inviting me.
And before we get into that, I know you've been principal for a few years. How long have you been in education? How long have you been principal?
Yeah, I started teaching in 2012, but then became the principal at Chicago Christian in 2018.
Okay, so you got a 5-year run going.
Yeah, 5-year run, starting year 6 now.
Okay.
Yeah,
and maybe just quick, if you look back on when you first took the job to where you're at with it now, what have you learned about it, or things that you think need to be addressed, or where you'd like to see it? You know, what you see yourself working on as a principal. I know I'm kind of off script here, but I'm kind of curious about that 5-year growth period for you.
Yeah. Definitely reflecting on that first year was I didn't know too well what I was doing. You know, I was kind of learning as I was going along with that, but it's been helpful to have a strong support system of teachers and staff at the school. You know, so yeah, first year went down, but then halfway through my second year, COVID came around. And so that kind of really shifted into different gears, how to handle like managing people and
was it part of any of your education coursework in college? Or
none of that came through.
If a pandemic, do this.
Do all those kind of things. But allowed me to become more flexible and realizing too that like you have to abandon some plans sometimes. Especially when something like a pandemic comes along, how do you really drill down on learning? What does it look like? So that actually was a great conversation out of the pandemic, was like, what does learning actually look like for a student? Because I think it actually offered as a reset for us of what does that look like for us? You know, and so that was important to actually go through that process, and even how painful that it was. A lot of us got to come out in the other end, kind of really reflecting on what we do as teachers and educators with that.
I mean, that's interesting that you know, reflecting on, and we talk about students learning and curriculum, all that, but for teachers and faculty, for administrators like yourself, it is a tremendous opportunity to learn. Unfortunately, it may be a very difficult and painful way, something you didn't anticipate, obviously, but powerful lessons can come out of that. As you said, like what is really important to learn, and how do we deliver it, and, you know, things like that.
Exactly.
So last year had to feel more normal then. What was last year like? That? I mean, are we like all systems go now and we're regular again?
Yeah, I think phrase that's been bounced around my head was like we had routine back. You know, so like normal, I think it's kind of got thrown out the window a little bit because it's always kind of different what it was.
Right, normal moves.
Exactly. Normal is always like on a spectrum, it kind of changes with that, but the routine felt back to us, you know, of like all the events we hosted, like the different community things we're hosting during the school year came back. So it felt good to have those things. It just looked a little different, you know, in terms of adding new different activities for our kids and different programs we're trying to do. But it felt good to have that routine because I feel like the school year went quick. Because nothing weird happened, you know, so which was kind of nice to have. So just kind of, okay, we're back into the flow of things.
I would imagine the kids were happy or excited, faculty too, and staff, like to have your spring play musical and be able to go to it. And it's wide open, regular experience where the fact that going to class can be normal and fun again. Maybe new appreciation for it.
Yeah, I think so. Kids like, honestly, okay, I'm glad to be here. You know, and really appreciating that. Like our fall musical had one of the largest crowds we ever had before.
Really?
Because it was the first time people could really come back in mass numbers. So like every seat was pretty much filled in that fall musical program, and so that was pretty cool to see and have that hosted back again. So that really marked the, all right, we're back. That's
nice. It's kind of that, it's undeclared signal that we like this and we're glad we can do it again, right? We appreciate it. So I want to talk about, this has come up a lot over the last year, I think, you know, and I don't think there's a surprise. A lot has been reported on dip in test scores, you know, across the board. It seems like a lot of concerns have been raised about the emotional, social learning development of our young people as well. Can you speak to how those things have impacted test scores and the social emotional learning part of it, impacted the you know, not just the classroom, but even the environment at Chicago Christian?
I'm a pretty big data nerd, so I like looking at the numbers with my curriculum director, and notice a couple things. One, there's a trend in the secondary world where universities and colleges are not necessarily looking at ACT scores anymore. And so some kids are taking it, you know, and so there's a different kind of de-emphasis on those scores that's happening. So some kids are not doing the preparation like they used to, you know. And
there's another factor.
There's other factors in there. And so like, when you look at ACT scores, you have to take them with a grain of salt, because some kids take them 5 times in a row, get a higher score. Some kids like, I don't need to do it anymore, you know, type thing. And so when we look at our scores, we kind of saw them become a little stagnant, you know, but if we really drill down those scores, we had just less kids taking it. You know, and so that you have less of a pool of kids for scores to pull from. So you weren't actually getting a real emphasis of like, how are we doing? You know, because we were getting an accurate picture. It wasn't a complete picture of what we're looking at with that. So that was one thing to look at, but there's still things for us to work on coming out of the pandemic with what scores we did see. So we did see something like they have an impact on it. There's no doubt about that. The whole online learning did have a negative impact on what our kids are doing, but we're kind of starting to see that come back out, but it's an incomplete picture, you know, with those scores with that one. The bigger thing that we're seeing actually is the social emotional side of things. Like we have kids definitely came across more isolated. They had like their small groups of pockets of friends, and we noticed that. Because like when during the pandemic, you stayed close to 5 or 6 people, and that's who you were with. Even though we came out of the pandemic, those kids kind of stayed the same. Even though we're all together as a school, we just tend to notice that kids are a little more isolated from each other in different groups of that. That's one thing we were kind of struggling with as a school. Like since we're kind of smaller, we wanted to work on that a little more.
Right, I was just saying a smaller school might lend itself to kind of bridging those gaps. Can you talk a little bit then about like what were some of the things that you either did or tried to do or felt at some point we need to do to meet some of these challenges?
So we really try to be intentional with creating opportunities for community building with our students. Again, a smaller school that we have the chance to do those activities. Do that one from our block party that we do in September, that we do our retreats and winter mission times in January. We do these giant step-up days and field trip days, you know, in the springtime. Again, all in the efforts of like getting to know new people within your class to do that, to kind of break down those walls that were built up for the pandemic because kids got used to being in those small circles of doing that. So that was a big emphasis for us.
It sounds like those are all great opportunities, great ways to bring kids together in a way that is, you know, not that the classroom experience is important, but it's that other end of it that I think also impacts the classroom experience as well. All right, so how about going forward now? You know, you've talked about some of the things that you learned, some of the things you had to adapt to. Whether, I don't know, there's new initiatives in your school district, in your building, or maybe from the state, you know, like, hey, this is curricula we want you guys to look at. Where are we at now?
Yeah, for us, you know, we have a little more flexibility as being a private school, you know, and so we have a little more choice in what we want to have going forward with that. A big thing for us going forward, we're really emphasizing something called teaching for transformation. Since we're a faith-based school, we like to see spiritual development in our staff and our students doing that. So this whole initiative that we're working on really gets the heart of actually having faith integrated into our classrooms more in a more real way. So we want to make sure that's a big emphasis for us moving forward. And so with our new superintendent, Mark Hampshire, coming in, he's really a champion for that as well. We want to make sure that's a real thing happening in the halls of our school.
This seems like, and maybe you can talk about what that experience will be like for the students in the building, because I also think this is an interesting opportunity. It's another way for you to address some of those social or behavioral things that you know, can be difficult to manage, but here's an opportunity in a very unique way to your school. What will that look like a little bit for your students? How would you describe that?
Yeah, all the challenges we talked about, right? You know, there's a chance for us to lean on our faith and our background to help with those things. You know, when it comes to our counseling, when it comes to academic advising and career choices, we have a chance to lean on our faith to help make those decisions for our kids to do that. So when things pop up in the classroom behavior-wise, or something rough happening in someone's home life which is impacting their schooling, we have a chance to come alongside them in that way to do that. So that teaching for transformation allows it to have more authentic vocab in the classroom to do that. It creates more opportunities for it to happen in the classroom, because that is our bread and butter. We want to make sure that we have that faith development with our students that helps them support them across all areas of their academic settings.
It's interesting also because it's a person's faith, but in practicality now. Instead of just talking about it, reading about it, how do I live it?
It's an action.
It's an action.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good luck with the initiative.
Thank you.
It sounds like a great you know, tool to have. I don't want to. A tool seems like the wrong word here because we're talking about something much bigger than that.
It's a good framework for a mind for us.
You know, one of the things I find really interesting about education is it's one of the few careers out there that offers a kind of reset, right? you walk away, even though schools don't shut down in the summer, and I've seen the parking lot at Chicago Christian, and it feels like, there's cars there 5-6 days a week, all through the day into the evening in some cases, in the summer. You guys aren't in school, right?
Correct.
But
exactly.
it looks like,
things going on.
but still there is an element where teachers get to walk away or revisit curriculum or lesson planning where, teachers and administrators can take a look like, hey, let's evaluate where are we at, what are we doing? When you consider those types of things and that opportunity, what does the next school year look like to you? And I kind of like you to talk about, like, what do you look forward to next in the school year? And I'm going to hit you with one more, what do you like best about your job? But what do you like looking forward to in the next school year?
Yeah, I always love the reset that summer brings. I'm a guy who likes to reflect on the past year, what went well, what didn't go well for us. My big thing is I always want to keep building up the culture of Christian High. In terms of like academic excellence, spiritual development, and get kids involved in activities-wise. How do we do that well to do that? So I really want to focus on, in the next school year, really hammering the idea of, like, we got to work hard, but we also love and support each other in that process of doing that. And so this whole Teaching for Transformation, looking at how we handle discipline, looking at how we handle different activities that pop up in the school year, I want to make sure that we actually do that well and lean on our faith, and we have a solid mission going forward, what we want to have. Because my big mantra that we have is that relationships matter. And so I always look at how do we do that better through our community events, teachers interacting with their students wise, always a chance of, like, how do you want to be better in that area, because that pushes us academically, spiritually, and emotionally with all of that, so that's my big emphasis on that.
It sounds like something exciting to look forward to.
It is.
And obviously the benefits, spiritual for sure, but also in terms of the overall mental, emotional health of the person, the students, and the faculty.
Holistic.
Yeah, very, very holistic. So my final question for you then is, and I love your point about being reflective on the year, because if we're going to improve, if we're going to get better, and I'll give you one here. I am partial. I have coached at Chicago Christian. I'm always amazed every time I walk in the building how well maintained it is, how beautiful the grounds are, and the atmosphere. My experience there working there was that the atmosphere is so incredibly healthy for young people. So I'm in your camp here, but for you as principal, that would also kind of be misleading. Since, well, of course, there's all kinds of problems and challenges that come up, and there are days maybe when this is not the dream job you thought it would be. But what do you like best about your job? What's best about being principal at Chicago Christian?
One of the perks, as a teacher, was I got to know kids, but those kids are only in my classroom. As principal, I can know everyone. And so I have the flexibility of getting to know every single student that we have. The joy of a school of 300 kids is that I know everyone's name. I've had a personal conversation with every kid. So I have the chance to mentor students, have them wrestle things, life, spiritual discussions, those kind of things with them, and I do that on a daily basis. That's awesome. I love doing that.
That sounds like, and now that I think about it, what a tremendous opportunity, because I think there are a lot of schools, especially larger schools, and I think Sandburg is a great school where I worked, in Stagg and Shepherd, but sometimes that principal is, a person moving through the hallways. The kids might know that that's the principal, but how often do they get the conversation that you get with your students?
Because one of my perks is I get to stand at the lunch line and kind of talk to kids as they come through the line and do those kind of things. And doing that, if I didn't get the chance to do that, I wouldn't want to do this job. So the joy of education is watching kids grow, working with them, providing advice and all that.
Yeah, and they get to know you, and you get to know them. What a tremendous opportunity for you to be a role model in that leadership role, but also work with them in the other areas, including their faith. Well, that sounds wonderful. You're making my that's really attractive.
That's good. It's good.
Is there anything else you want to touch on? I know we ran down a whole bit. I hope we didn't leave anything out.
No, I think we're good. I'm really excited for the fall. And
I know you have a new superintendent coming in.
Yeah, I'm excited for Mark Hamster to be joining us as superintendent-wise. He's an alum from the high school, and so he's going to bring a new kind of era of different direction and different leadership challenges for us to do that. So I'm excited for him to join our team. Yeah,
I've met him, and I'm aware of his background. He seems like a great person, and another nice thing to look forward to next year.
This will be great.
Okay, well, good luck.
Thank you.
Mike, thank you for coming in. I wish you the best.
Thanks for having me.
This summer and heading into next school year. I'm Dave Wierzal, and you've been watching Spotlight. Today's Spotlight has been on education, and we've been talking with Principal Mike Drury from Chicago Christian High School in Palos Heights. Thank you for watching.